Welcome to Money on Tap. Money on Tap, your personal finance headquarters, where we bring out the professionals' experience and some fun in what we call three-dimensional investing, utilizing insurance, brokerage, and fee-based planning. That's what we do on this show. We look at all sides of the issues, and we bring a fully independent planning perspective to the table.
Welcome back. You're listening to Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info at yourmoneyontap.com. You and I have a bone to pick here today because you've been out there on the podcast listening and you have yet to subscribe or yet to get a hold of us at 855-226-8551 or info at Your Money on Tap and receive your free Money on Tap gear. We are dying to get it out the door to you. And for those of you that have already, we appreciate you. It's a lot of fun to do this stuff here. And just to celebrate, that we're here together. We're on this journey together. Maybe we don't get to see you, or maybe you're not walking into the office or the branch this week, but you're a part of what we're doing here at Money on Tap, and we're grateful, and we want to appreciate you. So that's what we're going to talk about first of all, is clear the room, because we got a lot of other stuff to cover today here. By the way, my name's Seth Cressman. I'm here with Ben Brachon and Dan Mickelin. How are you guys doing today?
Doing good, Seth. I was just thinking about. It's funny you bring that up. It's been neat to see the numbers climb. Like the number of downloads and the number of people reaching out. It's actually, shocking after all these. You see these years. It's just kind of how the kind of bell curve scenario, and that's really neat. And glad a lot of people are getting some value out of you, Seth. Just out of you. So, anyways, yeah. I think that's good.
Yeah, no, it's great to see the viewership grow. It's we put a lot of effort into it, so it feels good to understand and to see, to be reaffirmed in that we're reaching more people and hopefully impacting more lives for the better. That's what it's all about.
Well, yeah, and Ben, you actually just confirmed that when we were trying to decide on what the Money on Tap logo was going to be, we should have stuck with my smiling face and the halo. That was my first choice. We should have just gone with it, but you know what? We've got this other Money on Tap logo out here.
I know. I just stuck with the old adage, voice for radio, face for radio. So whatever. We'll just. Oh, I'm just teasing you, Seth.
Well, yeah, I do appreciate you keeping us on the path here. This is the Money on Tap three-dimensional investing path that we are on with you today. We are going to have some fun, and we're going to be talking about the only constant is change. The only constant is change. Have you ever heard that before?
Isn't that the truth?
Yeah.
I don't think you wake up and one morning and you're like, hey, this is going to be great, and this is what we're going to do, and then the next thing you know, you're like, my day just spun out of control.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and there's some change that comes to you that way, kind of out of nowhere, and then there's changes that we make in life that we kind of plan around and plan for, but unfortunately, even those ones take twists and turns that make you wish you prepared a different way. And we're here to help you today. Hopefully, get prepared for those things in ways that will make that transition you're going through a complete success.
Yeah, I think it's a fun thing to do as a planner. You might think, I feel like sometimes when we put a plan together with our clients and we're, going through the plan and we're meeting up, or they're just calling, they feel like they can't make changes in whichever direction that they've, kind of drafted. And there's nothing further from the truth. That's one of the funnest things we get to do is to go through those changes and kind of reorg and figure out the puzzle again. Like, oh, hey, this piece over here was working. Not going to keep it in here anymore. We're going to go with this one over here. That's exciting and that's fun. And there should never be, I'm using the word should. I'm trying not to, but it's there. What I don't want people to feel bad calling us up and saying, hey, new direction or new idea. Now, on the other side of that, sometimes it can get a little extreme too, where in the matter of a few months, there's so many changes going on that's just like, well, we don't know how to help at this point because we've gone through 20 different changes in a month. So we'll see how things kind of work out for the meantime. That's not what I'm saying, folks. We're going to have a lot of fun in this show talking about some of the biggest of these changes that can happen. And I'm willing to bet that that's a part of your journey as well. With that, we're going to dive right into some more fun stuff here with Money in the News.
First up today in Money in the News is coming to us from Newsweek. This is written by Alex Phillips. Go woke, go broke. And millennials say it's true. I thought this was interesting because it disproved an assumption that I'd had, which was, I don't know what it was founded on, but we've kind of typically given millennials a hard time on the show. I think that...
Well-deserved, though. Well-deserved.
This is probably a little bit of a feather in their cap that I was unexpected. But they polled 1,500 Americans and kind of broke it apart by age group to see, who's buying into this notion of if you go woke, you go broke. Because of what we've all seen in the news lately, these companies taking massive, massive market cap hits because of political statements they make and this kind of woke era that we're in. And surprisingly to me at least, the millennial generation was one of the higher percentages of being in agreement with that statement, right? So they're of the mindset that if you go woke, you do indeed go broke. And we've seen that folly here with, Bud Light, I think, was the first one to go through it in an incredibly harsh way. I think, Ben, you said the sales were down like 29%.
In some states, there was like 16 and whatever, and so forth. And this article does address that. And I thought that was interesting because, Anheuser-Busch said that, told investors that on May 4th that, I'm quoting this, the declining Bud Light sales represented about 1% of the company's global volume.
That sounds like it's a little favorably spun there.
Well, just to be clear, in case you're not sure which of their volume is involved here, Bud Light also, Anheuser-Busch owns Budweiser, Kona Brewing, Michelob Ultra, Stella Artois, Estrella, Busch, Natural Light. I'm not even pronouncing some of these.
Stella
right.
Artois, that is.
Artois, I can't even, whatever. Presidente, Landshark, Hoegaarden, I don't whatever, Shock Top. Honestly, I wish I still drank because I would stop drinking. It's ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous that these companies are coming out for something like this so aggressively on something that's such a minority scenario. They're not against it, but to promote it is just the epitome of what's happening inside of all that's happening here. And for them to say it's only 1% of companies' global volume, I'm not sure that I think that that's really true. Seth is like dying over there. Oh man, Seth.
What you said there, Ben, made me think of. I can't remember the term, but when you do something to like punish a company or punish a person, you just go like the opposite, like a rage run or something like that. You're like, oh, I'm not going to drink your beer. And you go over here and you go to some other company, you drink 5 times as much of their alcohol just to punish them. I'm like, what kind of a bender would that look like?
You're going to wish you got this bar tab.
I'm glad you're not drinking either.
Yeah. Well, the thing is like even Target, with all that's going on with Target, in the first week they lost $9 billion and didn't even respond to it. And then I was looking at what was interesting. I was looking at a Target that was ransacked. And the only thing they were joking in the picture, the only thing left was all of their woke paraphernalia that they had for sale. That was the only thing left in the store. No one even wanted it. So it's just really sad that these companies are being pushed. And I think it's the CEI index, and that is I can't even find it right now. But anyways, that the equality index that these companies are being, the corporate equality index, I think is what it stands for. And these companies are being threatened essentially by these index numbers of whether or not they're woke enough so that these companies don't get boycotted or, ransacked. But that's happening to Target anyways. There's all these threats out there by these third-party organizations that if your index is not good enough, we're going to come and specifically rage on your company. So these companies are responding to that to avoid it. And yet they're getting hit by the other side too.
Yeah, I almost don't know what you do except, stay low and keep your mouth shut as a company, basically, so that you're not getting boycotted by, either end of the spectrum here in some form or fashion. But what Bud Light did, it's still, out of all these companies that have making the same misstep, which I can't believe they're literally doing it like dominoes, one after the next. Like somebody's got to flip open the news and learn something here, right?
Yeah.
But to take such a precipitous fall right off the bat, and then
pretend like you didn't even know about it.
Yeah, to say it wasn't an ad campaign and then to claim it's only 1% of sales. No, that brand is forever damaged. I mean, it's going to take a long time for them to dig out of this. And it was the number one beer brand in America. I mean, people like to drink beer here, and Bud Light was number one. And, considering what the and I'm making a presumption here, but the profile of your typical Bud Light drinker, like, they could not have been any further off target with this message. Yeah. I mean, I see all the time on the internet, we were just talking about this, like at Fenway Park, the beer stands, which are usually several hundred deep. I mean, it takes you 3 innings just to get there. No, it's a ghost town in Bud Light. Yeah. And they were showing a couple concerts, same thing. Yeah. Like, so people are, usually of the mindset in these arenas, like, what's the quickest beer I can get and get back to my seat? And they will literally stand in line and miss the show that they paid incredible amounts of money for to simply avoid doing business with Bud Light.
I think it's funny because this is Newsweek, right? So this is not a conservative provider of information, but all of the differences. The poll from Newsweek found that those who are aware of the phrase "go woke, go broke." Now, this is the highest percentage of all of the different research programs that they looked at. 72% of the ages between 25 and 34 agreed with it. 72%. I mean, you're talking about a vast majority of America. I mean, my wife and I just had a conversation the other day. My wife's like, it's easier for me to get to Target. So my wife is going out of her way to entirely avoid it. She's just like, I'm done. And when my wife makes that decision, that's over. Like, you it's sailed. Hopefully she doesn't say that to me anytime soon. But then 70% of 35 to 44 agree. So this is not like, I mean, Dan, I was of the same mindset. I was thinking this younger generation is just pushing this through and these things. And all these total secular polls are finding that it's not just there's not a poll on any of the paperwork here listed in this article that shows it's less than 50% on any one of these things that are,
even the political divide, which you think would be, probably some measure of leaning woke, but it says right here that 71% of Trump supporters and 62% of Biden supporters also agree with the statement.
But then the same article says the outrage. This is how this stuff makes me. The outrage at such brands has been seen by some as a reaction by I'm quoting, minority of conservatives. So they're blaming conservatives about it, but yet this massive group of people, 60 to 70% of Americans, aren't, not all conservatives, first of all. No. And so for them to even say minority of conservatives through the decline of Bud Light sales suggests that in a particular case, the boycott has notable support. I mean, it has nothing to do with minority conservatives. I mean, it has nothing to do with that at all. Like, it's a huge – this is – if you don't have to be a marketing expert to know this marketing fails.
It's the third rail. You just can't touch it.
So the reason we're talking about this, and I think for all of our listeners, it's not to play a political agenda. And if you agree or disagree, I really don't. I don't care. I mean, it's not about that. What it is we're about financial investing, and honestly, any company, like whether it's Bud Light or Target, somebody losing $9 billion in 1 week because of this on a national movement, like, you have to be prepared to know what they're doing. I mean, Dan, like, this is not, I mean, I'm sure a ton of our listeners love Chick-fil-A. I love eating Chick-fil-A. Tell them, Dan, what happened with Chick-fil-A.
Yeah, they just hired a vice president of diversity and inclusion. And, not that this person has even made an impact yet or delivered any statements, but there's already been reaction out on Twitter and social media of people fearing the move to the woke side, which from a staunchly conservative organization that Chick-fil-A has always been, it's just sending the shockwave. And they haven't even taken that step yet of, advertising or promoting something in this agenda space. But, the reaction to even the notion of it is just visceral. Oh, yeah, right. And it drops your share price immediately.
And so I think for our listeners, it's important for you to know who's running the company, what their stance is, and what's going on from a marketing agenda. Like, you have to see that stuff because you don't want to be caught owning a company that all of a sudden is going to have a $9 billion loss in a week. I mean, I don't know what Target's going to report, but I think it's going to be drastic numbers. I mean, I don't know about you, but I wouldn't buy Target. So.
No, not yet.
I'm not buying at Target, and I'm not buying Target.
Ben, I do have to say that I think if you come home with a 12-pack of Bud Light, that Kim may reverse her decision on your
might be a permanent thought.
The direction.
If you bought it at Target, though.
The direction you guys
that
are
receipt.
Yeah, I bought Bud Light at Target.
And the other thought I thought about this was interesting is that Nike is probably just loving this right now because they've kind of been the Colin Kaepernick news lines, headlines. They've been out there doing a lot of this stuff, right? And now they're just kind of left in the dust with what's going on with a lot of these other companies right now. They're like pointing the finger like, yeah, those guys, and they're doing okay. They're a fairly woke organization.
Yeah, there's no question that there's a ton of these companies that are right out there doing this. And some companies are taking steps in the forefront. Like Procter & Gamble has been a major player in the, in the anti-conservative realm. Let's put it that way. And so it's really hard to make investments in a lot of these companies because you're like, how is my dollars being spent? How is the profit that these companies are being spent? And I guess for Americans today, looking and being more proactive about how you spend your money is the only way we're going to communicate to these companies that, family values, having good morals, like living, teaching our kids what life should be and how you should it is so broken that if we don't teach them through our money, they're never going to learn.
It's just hard to understand, honestly, like how these companies are being, when all the polls say that the majority of Americans in every age spectrum and whatever political affiliation just simply don't support the cause, how and where and why are they actually being coerced to make these moves?
It's the CEI index and the George Soroses of this world. I mean, this is what this is all driven by. They're running in fear instead of standing up and, knowing that. If a company stood up and said, hey, look, XYZ, it's like, I think about the money we spend at Target every year. It's crazy.
Why isn't it simple enough to just say, hey, listen, we're not politically aligned. We don't care. We make beer.
Yeah.
Well, we make regular old commercial.
It's in a blue bottle. It's in a brown bottle. It's in a blue can. It is what it is. And, we don't need to put any logo other than ours on it.
We don't care who drinks it. Just buy it.
I don't have any. We don't have any logo
simple
on our company name on sign that says anything but the company name. We don't have money on tap, and then some sort of inappropriate thing. So it's one of those things that doesn't make any sense.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I just said yet. Yeah, we've. Hey, if you're looking for a different way to kind of do business, there's alternatives. You don't have to be stuck in, Target land or Bed Bath and Beyond land, you can't really go there anymore.
Investing. Yeah, it's investing companies. It's investing companies you're buying from. If you like their product, it's probably going to do well.
I was just going to offer. This last week I needed some deodorant, and that's a little too personal for this show, I realize, but I did, and it was I went to an app called Public Square, and I was able to find a place that's going to ship it to me for free. It's organic. It's all the stuff that I like, and it was a good price, and it supports the things that I believe in and I want to support. And if you're looking for, opportunities like that, it's available. And we're happy to sit down and take a look through the portfolio, if that's where we're at, and see how do things line up for you. Do you have some intentionality around where you want your dollars invested? I think it kind of brings it back into that wheelhouse for people. And a lot of people just don't even realize what the companies, they don't even know what they're invested in right now and what those companies are going out there and doing. And so with that, I think that's going to do it for us in Money in the News. That was a big one, you guys.
It was.
Yeah.
Dan,
we got a couple other
passion coming from Dan.
Show to do.
Passion.
Unleashed.
Dan's
fired up.
He's fired up.
Look out, Dan Mickelin. Let them loose. Here we go. All right, you're listening to Money on Tap, and this is show number 260 for us. I just am amazed. That's a
lot of you talking.
It's ouch. Here we go. It's the only constant is change show for you, and we will be back. And also, and if you are out there in the radio and looking for the podcast version, go get it. We're at Money on Tap. You can find us and subscribe. Send us a little love letter of how much you appreciate Ben, Dan, and myself, or just Ben and Dan. That's fine too. And we got something to send you, and just to appreciate you for being out there and liking, subscribing, and being a part of Money on Tap. Thank you for being here with us. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
If you're listening today and, your questions are outside the box of estate planning or financial planning or any number of the pieces that we kind of traditionally talk about, don't forget that Brayshaw Financial offers auto, home, and business insurance. And we have an entire department that handles all of that for you. Give us a call at 855-226-8551 and be happy to take care of those needs for you. Or email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com.
You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com. And now, more Money on Tap with Ben, Seth, and Dan.
Welcome back. You're listening to Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. We are talking about the only constant is change. This is going to be fun. I'm looking forward to this show because we've got, a lot of our clients that go through not only just a change of retirement or change in their family, and there's change in their living circumstances. They move jobs, and that's really what we're going to be talking mostly about is, kind of these big three changes that we just see so many people go through in their lives. And it's a practical way for you to just approach what's coming next.
I think 20 some odd years of working with people and planning, I've seen, everything from foreseen change to unforeseen change, to necessary change. And, both people from everything from jobs thought they were secure to, insecure and losing it to, losing a spouse, needing to move because a child got ill and needed care. I mean, I have a litany of stories. We all do, of the various pieces of change. And I'll tell you that, when we sit down with a lot of different people, we have advice to offer. That's why people engage us, is for helping them navigate waters that are treacherous and, tumultuous, and, you just never know what's going to happen. And I think the kind of the flag of a good planner is someone who can, move well on their feet and understand how those changes can impact you. And I can see myself giving advice based off of, all the history of, not only just my training, but, of things I've seen. Like, it's probably not a good idea. I can't tell them the 25 reasons why I wouldn't do it that way, but I would tell them that, statistically and whatever, this is a better move for them. And you can't always verbalize why, this particular strategy or, this particular investment or why this makes sense. I was just thinking about, a CPA I was talking to, and I was kind of going through the process of, hey, this is why I would do this. And he's like, well, I don't see that being an issue. And I'm just thinking to myself, there's no loss to doing it this way, but there's a lot of gains that I see as potential, things that could happen just from experience. And, we kind of went through that conversation, and I think that's, some of the reason why this, this show is really valuable for people is just understanding that when you're speaking with a planner, knowing that change is inevitable in everyone's life and what's going on, that there hopefully is enough historical understanding of those moving pieces, and that they can provide you with a portfolio and a plan that really helps you navigate waters that you just don't know what they look like.
Yeah, when you're going through changes on this kind of scale, the things that we're talking about, that has a lot of effect on people's lives, whether it's their family life, their mental outlook on things, where they're going to live. These types of changes are dynamic, and they affect people's lives on every level. So the one piece that we can really impact here for you is, and take, I think a lot of that burden off of people's shoulders, is just the reassurance that hey, listen, the financial aspect of the change is something that we still have our hands around. We can control that. We can help you make that next step towards whatever new direction you're choosing to head, and make sure that the financial end of it is secure and is still meeting your needs, whatever they may be. And that allows people to focus on the family issues and the new employment issues or whatever else is ahead of them that's going to be new territory that's going to require really all of their attention to navigate. Let us do the one part that we can affect immediately and just really take that extra weight off your shoulders.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody the other day, and I just was chatting with them briefly, and they wanted to interview some other financial planners. I was like, great. I said, if you came in and we went through everything and you really weren't a good fit for us, we'd tell you. I mean, it's not that much of an issue. And that might sound, like maybe, we would just work with almost anybody. And that's not the truth. I've found that, and I've sincerely looked for the right clients, and I really look to move the wrong clients away, not because I don't want to do business with them, but because, I don't want it to be unsuccessful for them. I really want somebody to have that. So when I meet with somebody, and I know you guys do this too, I really dig into the questions. Like he wanted to just kind of do a Zoom meeting and kind of, see if it was and I was like, why don't you come in? Let's see if it's a good fit. Because if we don't even get along and we don't, we can't even have a conversation, it's just not the right thing. But, the advice is free for the first visit. Like, let's have some fun and get to know each other and see if it is a good fit. Because once you find that fit, you can confide in that person. You can talk about your dreams and your fears, which a lot of people don't want to talk about because you feel insecure about that. And that's okay. Like, that's where you find out where change can occur.
I like what you're talking about there. That's an interesting part of what we're working through is the fit, right? If you are looking to retire, you're looking for a fit. You're looking for a time. You're looking for some, ideal amount of money, probably equals some kind of an income for you, right? That's the translation usually of that bucket or that pile of money that you've accumulated. So there's several fits in there, but there's also the willingness to go ahead and be vulnerable, right? Talk about the things that are coming up that are the fears. Get those out in front of us. Talk about, the places where, we really truly want to go, but maybe we feel like that's just something that nobody's told us we can. There's all parts of that conversation that need to be included. And if you're in a place where you feel like, I just am not ready to let go, I would say that's very common, and that's a very hard thing for a lot of people to do. And finding the person that they trust enough to go ahead and start to take over part of this journey and kind of help take over the steering of this so that they can really just start to enjoy the ride. And that's my translation of what I experience with, getting to work with new people, trying to find that right fit.
And to that point, we have 10 things to cover today that we think are kind of important reminders as you kind of plot this course into change. And the first one up on the list is to create an emergency fund. I mean, that's something we talk about is basic financial planning anyway, to have some cash on hand that's immediately accessible for the unexpected. And particularly in times of change and transition to a new place, a new job, whatever is ahead of you, you do want to be sure that you've set aside some funds for the unexpected because somewhere along the way that is sure to happen.
Well, and I think the thing about emergency funds and in number 2, which is saving for change-related expenses, because they kind of can mirror off each other. They're different conversations for us, So when we say those things, I think one of the pieces, for instance, Roth IRAs, if you've had it for more than 5 years, you're under 59.5, there might be some accessibility to a change scenario for you that could come into play, and that could be additional. So, as planners, we save without telling you we're saving. We're creating liquidity where you don't see liquidity. So, good planning is always preparing for, man, if they had this happen, where would we go first? I always have people that say, hey, I'll take money out of this thing. And I'm like, whoa, that's the last place we're going because that's the most taxable event or that's the least liquid or, that's the one that has your longest term goal in mind. So there's just different conversations around liquidity and saving for those types of expenses.
Yeah, there's also anytime there's like, for instance, if you're moving across the country, right? There's the relationships that you already have, and sometimes what we don't understand is how valuable those are. We've spent years developing them. Those are the person that we trust purchasing a vehicle through, getting our plumbing or our electrical or our contracting or your hair. Those are big deals for a lot of people when they start moving different places, is how do I find these new relationships? And a big time saver is just using us and using the relationships you have, because one of the things we love to do is support the people that we care about and we know do good business through those referrals. That's how that's 90% of how people find us here at Brayshaw Financial Group, is because they work with us and they know and love somebody and they care about them and they refer them to us. And it's the same thing here. We want to help support you. And believe it or not, we've got relationships all across continental and all 50 states and even off, right?
We do. I mean, it's kind of funny. You think about how many offices we have and how many states we have. And, it's like, we don't have an office in every state, but we have so many offices and then relationships. We have clients in over 40 states, I think it is. We know somebody somewhere. I can't even tell you how many times we've gotten a client who was a referral from somebody else who knew somebody who was already another client. Ironically, it comes up, oh yeah, I'll be like, hey, do you know so-and-so? And, I can't tell them it's a client, but, I know people. So it is what it is, but we don't get into, but it's just amazing how there's just linkage, and finding a boutique planning firm that can create that opportunity is interesting. But I think, trying to secure all of those things, which are big fears, are monumental to climb for a lot of people. I mean, people make change. I'm impressed with people that make change. It speaks to who they are and the fact that they can take risk.
Yeah, it's seemingly really hard to get almost anything done these days, particularly as you kind of parachute into a new area and don't even know who to begin to speak to. So, reaching out to the people that you already know and trust, and just on a whim asking them if they happen to have a contact in XYZ, wherever it may be, you never know.
Which takes us to the number 3 here, which is, secure your insurances, your life, your health, making sure that you have, even the property and casualty insurance, your auto, your home, that kind of insurances. Get those things secure for yourself in your new location or your new situation in life. And also, challenge your insurance agent to help you find something that's maybe less expensive, as you're dealing with that. But our big point here, and this is something we talk to people about all the time, you might have life insurance or health insurance with work and so forth, but life insurance specifically, portability is really, really important, because if you lose a job, we talk to people about this all the time, you lose your job, you have no life insurance. Like, that's a big problem. And if you have a health change, then your family could be extremely vulnerable in a life insurance, death scenario. And something that's portability, owning your own plan, it might cost you a little bit more money, especially in term insurance, but it's worth it.
Yeah, it goes with you, and it doesn't care that you lost the job. So having something that you truly own outright, not by association with a company, is just a very important element of planning. And the other thing coming up is your retirement plans, right, at work. For people who are either retiring or changing jobs in particular, that money is there, but it's going to be left behind if you don't do something with it, right? So the idea that you need to leave the 401k at the older company is just not correct, right? So we have lots of options that you can consider in terms of rolling those assets over into something that, again, travels with you and you continue to have access to no matter what.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a whole comparison piece about what's valuable to you, what's relevant, what's where you're going to find value. The best way, I describe, a retirement plan or 401k is, it's like a bus, right? Like when you have a 401k at work, it's a bus. You hop on a bus, and ultimately that, that ticket's a little bit cheaper, and you're riding with somebody. You might be sitting next to somebody you don't like or whatever. But when you have a 401k, the plan options are limited. You can't buy anything you want, and it might not be the investments that you want specifically for where your goals are set. The second you can move out of a 401k, you're in a sports car. You can be more nimble. You can buy things that are intentionally focused for a time horizon or a goal you have. And I think, that's where you create a little bit more intentionality around your financial planning.
If you're listening to Money on Tap, you can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. One of the things I did, I failed, you guys. I failed to mention something. And
We're not talking about your English 101 in college, are we, Seth?
Oh, shoot, yes, yeah. But luckily I passed the math class. That's all that matters, right? So you'll notice my emails to you are really short and sweet. I don't get into a whole lot more than, yes, please, thank you. One of the things I really enjoy is the interaction with you, our listeners, and you and Dan. I really like you guys a lot, too. And it's that communication back and forth. It's like, hey, I've got a situation. I've got a question. Some of that stuff gets pulled into Money on Tap and becomes a show. And if that's you today, send us a little note. Let us know, hey, I've got a situation or a scenario, a question for you guys. We'd love to bring it to the audience here at Money on Tap and put it out there and hopefully help you and others. You can really help support other people through your questions. And that's the part about being the kid in class that actually raises their hand and says, I got something over here. I need a little help. It helps everybody along the way. So that's what I had to say with that. Today we're talking about the, and so now I know there's no, there was that I turned that lemon into a lemonade there, didn't I?
Yeah, I'll go with that.
You all right? Okay. All right. So we're talking about the only constant is change here, Money on Tap. And everybody goes through changes, right? There's a change in job. There's a change in your location. There's the change in, oh shoot, what are the other ones? I feel like there's
moving
so
into retirement, having grandkids.
Retirement.
Doing estate planning. With all these different pieces we have
going to college.
Yeah, it's just so much stuff that's going on with change, and there's just an never-ending list. There's a never-ending list. I know people who are grandparents who then take in those children, and that's a change, right? There's just so many different variables of change that happen. I think, number 5 we have here is a new budget. I think as you're preparing for a potential change, we have budgeting software. We have things that we can help you with in that space. But setting up a projected budget of what that potentially looks like for you, I've done that. My wife and I have looked at different scenarios in our life and, maybe moving or, changing homes, not jobs, because I still do like working with you guys. But, but setting up a new budget and looking at what those costs and counting those costs are absolutely key. And I know people fear budgets, right, guys? People fear budgeting.
Yeah, they don't want to have to tell themselves no. Is really what that comes down to often. But
well said, Dan. Well said.
Hey, thanks. But understanding the new reality is, it's just a must. It's just important to do so that you can get yourself off on the right foot and headed in the right direction into this change. Last thing you want to do is go through these dramatic new life events and then soon into it find yourself in a situation that's difficult to manage that could have been predicted and probably, managed a little bit better on the front end of things.
Save your logins.
This is a good one. This is a good one.
Easily forgotten. How many people get into hey, I've got everything I need on my work laptop or, my work desktop, and that's kind of where that's pretty much the only computer they use. And that is not a portable piece. That is their possession, not yours. However, your logins to your bank or whatever are yours. And I kind of forget about this so often because it's like we're super portable with phones and iPads, and most of us are doing life outside of work these days. But every once in a while, I really get caught off guard by this. I'm like, okay, do I have everything backed up? Do I have my password key over here that's, my own password keeper that's secure and locked up, so that I don't get caught off guard and get somewhere down the road and I can't get into the thing.
I have a real life story on this. Probably most listeners don't know. I lost my brother a number of years ago. And he was the best man at my wedding, super huge loss in my life and my family. But, his wife and the kids, he had a laptop computer, which he had all the family, like kind of backed up family photos on and so forth. And no one knew his password to his laptop. So we did the recovery thing through Apple and so forth, and it was sending a code to his phone. But guess what? It was his work phone.
Oh, no.
And so we literally were on the phone, like trying to track down HR because they had turned in the phone like 3, 4, or 5 weeks prior, and just trying to get the code. And it was, and we ended up getting somebody who literally tracked down the phone and, found it, and it was not changed to somebody else and got the code. And it was, but it was a total miracle that was able to work out that way. But such a this is why I love this one. It sounds silly, but it's not just like the family photos. There's so much. Like you might have a budget, you might have a bill spreadsheet, you might have, logins for, I know that like we have savings accounts and stuff like that in different banks we use. I don't know if my wife knows all of those things perfectly. Like she probably does, but it would take her a lot of work to figure all that out.
Yeah, just keeping track of passwords is, we all get required to change them periodically. And, I try and keep a master list, but you know how good that goes sometimes. And, I just got an alert from a doctor's office and, they're sending a code to my one email at work while I'm at home that I can't access. And it wants to send a code back to my cell phone to verify. So the whole thing was just a useless chase in the end. But bottom line is, make sure that you remember where all those things are saved, what your preferences are stored as. If it's a work machine, make sure you empty that out and take that data with you.
Yeah. The next one, number 7, is pay off debt and review your credit. I think this is kind of it's kind of complicated to look at that, but I think you don't want to walk into any sort of change with, kind of excessive new or, pending debt issues. Like that's something that's an issue. The second thing is make sure your credit's good, because if you sell your house and you can't get a new mortgage or, something like that, there's an issue. I've had people have mortgages and, they have a bankruptcy and then all of a sudden they can't get a new mortgage, like their house is protected, but they can't get a new mortgage. So you may want to be really careful about making changes, especially, we've had people who have had identity theft and their credit gets ruined, and there's just so much stuff out there you don't even realize until it happens. So to review or check your credit is something that's significantly bigger than you realize.
Yeah, even if you're not in the midst of a change, it's something you want to keep eyes on basically at all times to some degree.
Yeah, I just use Dan's credit.
That explains something.
I'm going to jump on that bus, speaking of buses. I appreciate the offer, Dan.
Don't leave your passwords in your laptops, guys.
I don't. I'll get your sticky sheet next to your computer.
I'm going to tag on to that pay off debt review credit. I would also make sure that you have a service that is in place for you to recover your identity. That identity that we've had shows here on identity theft and organizations and companies that really step into that place to make sure that if somebody's stolen your identity, they're on it. And that is actually giving you your life back if you don't have that in place. This is a good time to go ahead and check and make sure that that's up to date. And I'll say with my parents, they, both my parents have Alzheimer's, and we're helping them through this process of, trying to make sure that they are still paying their bills and they're on top of these things. And that was one of them, was that did not get paid and got let go, was I'm forgetting the name of the organization, forgive me. But anyways, yeah, that didn't happen. And so we got to go ahead and put that back in place for them after a big scare of, some of these identity theft happening for them, because they're getting really good out there. Scammers are all over this, and they probably already have your information, is the thing that I'm realizing. So why wouldn't you have something in place to protect it?
Agreed. Number 8, research. I think that's probably the biggest thing you need to do for change. We recommend reading blogs, listening to podcasts, maybe go back through our history of podcasts and different things. you might be, questioning like about your retirement plan or about budgets or emergency funds. We have shows on all sorts of things, including what's going to come up next, which is our legal documents update. That is number 9. But this is where you can really just do the research before you make a big leap, right? So, there's the people who do the research and never make the leap. And then there's people who just leap and then say, oh, I should have done the research. Do the research and then leap. I think that's that's number 8 for us.
And just one of the simplest ways to do that is just to talk to somebody who's done it.
Yeah.
You can probably find someone who's made a move either exactly the same or very similar to what you have in mind. Maybe even someone you already know and trust. But finding people to share a story and just kind of get into their personal experience is definitely something you can learn from. Doesn't mean you got to do the same things or follow any advice they offer, but hear what they had to say and just keep that in mind.
You're listening to Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. We are talking about the only constant is change, helping you with just some practical tips and tricks of getting through some of these big changes in life. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Folks, we have a lot of fun doing this show, Money on Tap, and Ben and I have been financial planners for years and years, and our goal here with you is to bring you into the room, have the conversations that we have. We think these are critical conversations for you, but we understand this is a limited space, and what we'd love to do is to open the doors to you with us at Brayshaw Financial Group, so you could experience what it means to have three-dimensional planning in your life. Let's take a look at all sides of your situation, your scenario, and see how we can put together the best plan possible, taking into account your risk. How much can you have in the market? How much do we need to have set aside and doing different things for your life? That's what we do as planners, how we engage with you, and we welcome you to do that with us. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. Now, if you have $250,000 that are investable assets today, our planning is free to you. We want you to have the playbook to have a successful experience in retirement. Give us a call, 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. Ben and I welcome you to Brayshaw Financial for complete wealth management.
We appreciate you listening to Money on Tap with Ben, Seth, and Dan. You can contact us at 855-226-8551 or email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com. And now, more of this week's program.
Welcome back. You're listening to Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. Show number 260. The only constant is change. I'm really proud of that number, you guys. I appreciate you guys for doing 260 shows of me.
Want to celebrate Seth
And
today?
you.
Celebrate Seth only. So, for all of our listeners, especially on the radio, I mean, we air all over New England. We sometimes air on the West Coast too. We haven't done that in a little while, but podcasting, it doesn't hurt to subscribe. If you do subscribe, we really appreciate it. We have something special for you for doing that. Give us a call, reach out. But I encourage people to do that because the more people that subscribe, we go up these lists that allow other people to find us. And I think if you find value from that, there's no harm in subscribing. You're not going to get direct emailed or anything like that unless you email us and want to, get our newsletters and our quarterly financial reports and stuff like that. If you want to get that information, we're happy to share that with you. But subscribing, it's no sweat off anyone's nose. Please feel free to do that if you like our show. It helps other listeners find us, and we appreciate that.
Legal doc check-in time. Do you have a trust? Do you have legal docs that need to be reviewed? Probably, because most of the time people don't want to do that work. In my experience, I can't even tell you I laugh because it's just such a common thing for us here, and it's a part of doing business. It's a part of doing life. Very, very few people come in with their legal documents just all squared away and can't wait to show them to us. Most of the time we ask, do you have a will? And the eyes go down. The shame face pops out. And we're like, I know. It's okay. It's all right.
It's okay.
We're here for you.
We don't care. There's no judgment here. It's not a judgment-free zone on the legal doc. One of the things is if you're ever making change, like you need to update your legal documents. I don't care what it is. Like if you're moving to a different state, your healthcare directives might have to be addressed for that state-specific issues. If you're moving to a different state, you might have some state Medicaid laws. If you're doing some Medicaid planning around long-term health care concerns and stuff like that, you might need to be state-specific. I think of Connecticut as being one of those regional states that we have. And it's just, if you are making any sort of viable change, it is legal doc time, and it's not that big of a deal, and people make it this huge ordeal.
Yeah, I mean, just the simple fact that if you're moving, there's a high likelihood you're selling a house and buying a house, right? So you want to just simply update the addresses of the property you own and make sure that's in the documents.
If you're retiring, you might be looking to protect an asset long-term for your children. I mean, it's 1,000 different reasons why legal documents come into play.
Yeah, and just having them up to date is, like you said, Ben, it's not the massive undertaking it feels like, and there's all this concern and consternation around, I need to speak to an attorney, and there's going to be all this cost and this level of engagement you're not ready for. It's really simpler and less expensive than you probably expect. So just go ahead and contact us or contact who you work with and make sure that happens. And
we have an in-house attorney, too. It doesn't cover every state, but he does a great job. And if anything, he can probably give you some quick advice if you're not in a state he's associated with, legally able to practice. I mean, he could probably give you some direction or a contact that he has in those states. He's surprisingly, I think, knows an attorney in every state. It's what I found out from Mike.
Just this last week, helping a new client through a change. They sold a house and they're wanting to move south, and it's all new business here. We're taking a look through and we're going through the accounts and talking about it. And in taking a look at that, they had a trust, and in the transition of selling that house and moving the money over to their bank account, well, guess what? That bank account wasn't in the trust, and they didn't even know that, and that's very common. For people to think that they have a trust and think that things are covered inside of their trust, but they haven't actually moved the assets into the trust. And that's part of this change as well. It's just, just make sure. It's okay to double check.
Yeah. I mean, this all comes down to probably our last point, right? I mean, at the end of the day, you need to make sure that if you're making a major change, that your financial advisor or financial planner can be as, flexible and capable and manageable to be even portable to wherever your needs take you or your change is taking you. Like if it's taking you into retirement, make sure you're not just working with a wealth management company and that's all they do is manage wealth. Because, when it comes to retirement, it's about distribution, not growth. It's about preservation, not accumulation. That's people lose sight of what they're trying to accomplish when it comes to retirement. And then when you're switching jobs or you're moving to a new location, you need to make sure your advisor's properly licensed even in that state.
Yeah, and we leverage technology a lot. I mean, we make the reference a lot that we have as many clients in California as we do in Concord, New Hampshire, probably. And that's, it's done by Zoom and mail and phone. I mean, we can leverage all of this technology now to maintain a relationship or even start new relationships without having to be physically local. So it's important that you have that ability. Some advisors out there are kind of on the way out of the industry and haven't necessarily adapted to the technology that we have as a regular tool here. So, our reach is essentially limitless, but that isn't the same for everybody. So just make sure that your advisor and the people that you trust most with access and advice around your money are going to be able to continue to play the role in your new location.
You got it. There's so many clients that are snowbirds, and life has become portable. It's, it's in a suitcase, it's in a laptop, it's on your iPad, and it's just a part of life. And it's just a process that we just want to make sure, hey, you're ready for it. You've got everything you need. It's at your fingertips. We're here for you. You've been listening to Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. Ben, I like so much what you said as far as subscribing to the podcast. We really appreciate you guys out there. If you like us and listen, thank you for the subscription. We really appreciate that. It helps other people find us, and it's also fun for us to see some of those numbers come up as well. So with that, be successful in your investing, folks, and we cannot wait to join you here next week. You've been listening to Money on Tap. Make it a great week.
The views expressed are not necessarily the opinion of this radio station and should not be construed directly or indirectly as an offer to buy or sell any securities mentioned herein. Investing is subject to risks, including loss of principal invested. No strategy, product, material, or tool mentioned can assure a profit nor protect against loss. Please note that individual situations can vary. Therefore, the information, products, materials, or tools mentioned should be relied upon when coordinated with individual professional advice. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. This show may be subsidized in whole or in part by a product sponsor or issuer. Securities and advisory services offered through SagePoint Financial Incorporated, member FINRA SIPC, and a registered investment advisor. All other services offered through Brayshaw Financial Group LLC are independent of SagePoint Financial. SagePoint Financial and Brayshaw Financial Group do not provide tax or legal advice. Main office is located at 116 South River Road, Bedford, New Hampshire, 03110, and can be reached at toll-free 855-226-8551.